Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we have a very straightforward video. We are going to be talking about the best Paladin civilizations in Age of Empires 2, and today I've got you guys my top 5. So starting off at number 5, we've got a civilization that basically has generic Paladin, but has a very small boost to them that I think goes a long way, and that is the Cumans. The Cumans have perfectly fully upgraded generic Paladin, however they have an extra 5% movement speed, which I think plays a decent role in late game. This extra 5% might not seem like a lot, but it lets you close the gap on things like Arbalest as they're running away, it lets you keep up with cavalry archers, and just generally speaking chase down units and surround units and just do more things with this extra mobility that a paladin already is pretty good at. What I like about extra movement speed for an already mobile unit is that it plays towards the unit's strengths, so what you're normally going to be doing with the paladin is going to be done a little bit better for the Cumans, and I think that is definitely a very strong bonus. Now, it's not the most impressive, but that's why we just put it at number 5. Moving on to number 4, I've got another one that's a little bit weird because this paladin in super late game is actually a very bad paladin. It's lacking bloodlines. However, the rest of the upgrades are all there, and that is the Burgundians. Now, the Burgundians take number 4 spot even though they have a objectively weaker version of a fully upgraded paladin. In the late game, lacking bloodlines means that your paladin will lose one-on-one to, say, a Spanish or Hun paladin, but the Burgundians get a really nice bonus that allows them to go into paladin much better than other civilizations, and that is the fact that they get Cavalier in the Castle Age. Not only that, but they also get cheaper stable upgrades, meaning that they can get Cavalier in Castle, and as soon as they hit Imp, they can right away tech Paladin at 50% the cost. This is such an insane bonus when taken in a practical sense. This means that you can go for some strong Cavalier play in Castle Age, and then as soon as you get up to Imp, you can click Paladin and get that right away without having to wait for Cavalier to come in. On top of that, you're getting that discount, so early Paladin is very affordable and a very legit game plan for the Burgundians. Honestly, I was debating putting the Burgundians higher up on the list because it's one of the very few civilizations where going Paladin is not that much of an investment and not that much of a liability. It's also extremely useful in team games when that Paladin spike is just so crucial for the extra Pierce armor. Think about it, the 20 HP from Bloodlines is not as good as a Pierce armor that the Paladin gets over the Cavalier in a lot of situations in team games. Going up against the guy with Arbalest on the flank, you really need that Paladin upgrade to get that extra Pierce armor, or else your Cavalier could get shredded if he's got a really big ball of Arbalest. Getting that fast Paladin lets you swoop in and clean up the flank before he has the time to set up some other option, or before he has the time to get the Paladin support from his pocket. Overall, I think Burgundians have different power spikes, but getting a cheaper upgrade in and a faster Paladin makes them one of the best Paladin civs in my opinion, and definitely worthy of a number 4 spot. Obviously in the late game you might want to transition off of it, but you have a very big window where the Paladin will be extremely strong even if it's missing bloodlines. Next up at number 3, we've got a fan favorite. Now, I was actually going back and forth with this civ, but it's going to be the Teutons. Now, the Teutons is actually a weird one because they are lacking husbandry, and aside from that, they have full upgrades, and on top of the full upgrades, they also get an extra 2 melee armor, 1 in Castle Age and an extra 1 in Imperial Age for a total of +2 melee armor. This is really an important bonus because the Paladin sometimes goes up against melee units like Halberdier. I shouldn't say sometimes, very often goes against melee units like Halberdier, like Camel, like other Paladin, for example, maybe even against Hussar in some cases. And it's very important to note that despite the Paladins taking bonus damage from Halbs and Camels, the 2 melee armor will reduce every attack by 2 damage, which is definitely a very strong bonus. On top of that, if it's Paladin against Paladin or Paladin against Hussar, then the 2 armor will be huge, taking down a significant percentage of the enemy attack and making you much tankier in those melee combats. Now, the downside to the Teuton Paladin is the fact that you don't have that husbandry tech. We talked earlier about how important movement speed is, and that is, in my opinion, a pretty big setback for the Teutons. That being said, I weighed the pros and cons, and I think overall the role of Paladin for Teutons is definitely a really important one, and I think it's, generally speaking, pretty easy to get to Paladin with Teutons. You got the cheaper farms, you got really nice economy to develop into the Castle Age and Imperial Age. The +1 melee armor on the Knights in Castle lets you win every single Knight War on equal terms, and so you can build up the Knights from Castle Age and really set up a big Paladin play once you get to Imperial Age. And since the Teuton Paladins perform very well against all melee units, including Halbs and Camels, you can then just push for Paladin and overrun your opponent even if they're on counter units in some cases. And I think that's a very powerful thing to do with the Teutons. Moving on to number 2, we've got the Lithuanians. Lithuanians could have been number 1. I think what's number 1 is very obvious, but there's a very interesting honorable mention that you guys gotta keep in mind as well. But number 2 for Lithuanians. Now, Lithuanians have the potential to be the best paladin in the game. Getting the extra 4 attack from relics, but lacking blast furnace, means you can get +2 attack compared to a generic paladin. Yes, that means you can get a 20 attack paladin with full upgrades. This is a very strong unit to have as the Lithuanians, but I didn't want to put them as number 1 because you're not necessarily guaranteed that +2 attack. You actually need to get the 4 relics to ensure you have that, or at least 4 relics, and sometimes you're just simply not going to have that. You can't guarantee that every game you will get up to 4 relics, and so the Lithuanians are very dependent on the relic bonus to have better than generic paladins. If you get 0 relics, then Lithuanians have generic paladins and actually weaker than generic paladins because you're lacking the blast furnace. So the Lithuanians can either be one of the best paladin in the game, or it could be a very below average paladin. Overall though, I think with the Lithuanians, you probably will secure at least 2 relics, therefore having generic paladin, and the opportunity to get the 3rd and 4th relic to boost your paladin further in the late game is a very real one, because most Lithuanian players do want to go for those relics, and so I would say more often than not, you're gonna have some extra attack from relics in some form, and that is enough to put the Lithuanians at number 2 for my personal taste. And one other thing I want to mention, the extra 100 food per town center is a really nice economy bonus to help push the Lithuanians to getting those relics and to help push those Lithuanians into cavalry play. Faster working monasteries also helps in the relic department, and so generally speaking, the Lithuanian game plan is going to be geared towards getting relics and going for paladin. It is worth noting though that the Leitis is probably a better unit in most cases than the paladin, and also Lithuanians have the winged hussars, so oftentimes you're probably not even wanting to go paladin unless it's a very specific team game setup or very specific 1v1 setup that you have a lot of knights mass from Castle Age. Still though, one of the best paladin in the game if you can get to 20 attack fully upgraded paladins. Before I show you guys the very obvious number 1, I will talk about a quick honorable mention, which I actually believe is the best paladin in the game, but it's not a paladin, it's the Persian Savar. Yes, the Savar is technically not a paladin, so I felt very disingenuous to put it on the list, but I still had to include it in the honorable mention because the Persian Savar is absolutely deadly. They have yet another pierce armor on top of the generic paladin at 4 base pierce armor, going up to 8 after full upgrades. The upgrade is cheaper and comes in faster than the paladin tech, so Savar is kind of come in real strong, and they also have an extra melee armor to make up for the 15 lost HP. So as far as I'm concerned, the Savar is a strictly better version than the paladin, and it also comes in cheaper and faster than the paladin. Not only that though, but Persians have the team bonus that makes their cavalry have +2 attack against archer units, and so in general you're going to get a very strong unit in the Savar that also has a bonus damage against archers. What a ridiculous combo for the Persians, and definitely one that lets them dominate in the late game. This change of getting Savar instead of Paladin single-handedly gave Persians a winning matchup against Mongols, whereas before Mongols would destroy that matchup. But now the Mongols have a very hard time dealing with the Savar. Alright, moving on to the number 1. It's so obvious, it's almost painful. I've got the Franks. No suspense whatsoever. The Frank Paladin is, in my opinion, the best in the game. From the economy to the direct bonuses onto the Paladin to the unique tech, the Franks just have so many things going for them in terms of cavalry play. And so the Franks getting extra HP on Paladin for free by default every game is super consistent and a super strong bonus. It also lets them not have to tech into Bloodlines, saving them a little bit of resources when going for the Paladin play as well, and getting to 192 HP fully upgraded paladins is insane. Not to mention their very strong economy, heavily geared towards farming, like getting free farm upgrades, getting the berry bonus to help them out in the early game. Everything in the Franks arsenal is letting them play some smooth cavalry into paladin gameplay, and I think the best part about the Franks is the fact that you can get the chivalry tech in Imperial Age, which basically makes your stables produce a certain percent faster, I think 40% faster, and the best part about this tech, right, is that it affects the paladin upgrade. So if you have a lot of economy, you can pick up the stack, you can pick up conscription, and you can get a very quick paladin upgrade in Imperial Age. You get cavalier quick, then you get paladin quick, and then you just start spamming those paladin very fast from your chivalry stables, letting you take over a game so easily in the late game with Frank Paladin. It's no secret that Franks have been dominating the game in the cavalry realm in both 1v1 and team game, and they have historically had the best paladin in the game, and I think that that is true up until this point. that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with my list in the comments, if I missed any Civ or not. And as always, if you want to see more content from me, check out my Twitch channel for the live streams, and also check out my Patreon if you want to have more guides and just get better at the game. I have a lot of exclusive videos on Patreon, as well as a whole strategy guide for my subscribers there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.